Now that we're logged in and feeling comfortable in the user interface here in Google Docs, it's time to talk about working with actual documents. Regardless of their type, when we go to create new documents, such as word processing documents, spreadsheets, and presentations, we do it all from one location, and that's very convenient. So in this lesson, we're going to create one of each document. We're going to create a new word processing document, a new spreadsheet, and a new presentation to get a quick intro to each of those applications and how they work. Then we'll return to our Google Docs home here, where we'll see all of them and how easy it is to stay organized. So here I'm logged into my Google Docs home, and when I'm ready to create a new document, I simply come up to the New button up here in the top left corner. Notice the arrow next to it. That means clicking this button displays a drop-down, and here's where I choose whether I want to go into word processing, spreadsheet application, or create a new presentation. Let's start with document. We give it a click and we're taken directly to the word processing application, sometimes called Docs. And here you can see I've got a new blank document ready to start typing. I've got my flashing cursor here at the top of the page. And like most word processing applications, I've got a menu bar with File, Edit, View all the way over to Help. I've also got a toolbar down below with some shortcuts to saving and printing. There's undo and redo, some formatting options as well. We're going to get into all of this in detail later on in this title when we get to the word processing chapters. Over here in the top right-hand corner is where I go to share a document, save it, and, well, I can save and close simultaneously. I can always return to the Docs home by clicking this link and even sign out right from up here in the top right corner. But I'd like to create just a simple document. I'm going to type in one line of text. I want you to see what happens up here in the top left corner. Currently, this is an untitled document, and I'm editing this now. You can see the date and the time, and it's edited by me. I'm going to type in Word Processing 101. And when I hit return a couple of times, as though I were going to continue typing, if I need to leave the application temporarily, I want to save my changes. Typically, when we click a Save button or go up to the File menu and choose Save in most word processors, we see a dialog box where we get to type in the name. I want you to see what happens here when I click Save here in Google Docs. Right away, it's automatically named whatever it sees in the top line. So the name of this document is now Word Processing 101. If I want to rename it, I can click right here on the name itself to do that, or I can do it from the Google Docs home. So let's wait till then to do it. I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side and click Save and Close. It'll save any other changes I make and close up the word processing application. Now this returns me to my Google Docs home. Now currently it looks like there's no files here. There's no new document. Well, I can reload or refresh my browser. Clicking this button will refresh things. Let's see if it's there now. Sure enough, under All Items, I see one word processing document called Word Processing 101. If I want to go back to it, I just click on its name right here. You'll notice when my mouse pointer hovers over the name of the document, I see the little hand with the finger pointing, and that allows me to go into the document to continue working on it. Now over here, if I want to stay organized, I can look at the ones that I've created, the ones that are owned by me. And there's one, Word Processing 101. Now it's not located in each of these folders. It's just being referenced. So that means if I come down here, for example, to Documents, I'm going to see it there as well. Again, these are not copies. It's just different ways of viewing the contents. Down here, if I click on Spreadsheets, there are no spreadsheets and no presentations at this time. I can always go back to Owned by Me or click All Items to see every single item regardless of file type. If I want to rename this now, you'll notice up here in Google Docs Home on the toolbar there is a Rename button. So I'll click the checkbox next to Word Processing 101 and click Rename. And then you can see it's just kind of highlighted so I can type over what's there. I don't have to take out what's there already. Just type right over it. WP 101. And I'll hit Enter or Return, and I've changed the name. Let's create another new document. This time we'll go into the Spreadsheet application by choosing New and then Spreadsheet. Here in our spreadsheet application, again, it should look familiar to people who have used spreadsheet applications like Excel or Quattro Pro, for example. Everything happens from the File menu right here. We've also got tabs for edit, sort, formulas, and revisions. There's a toolbar with shortcuts. There's my save and close buttons up here. And when we type in information in a spreadsheet, this works a little bit differently than we saw with the word processing document. For example, if I type in Spreadsheets 101 and hit return, you can see what happens down here in the bottom right-hand corner. This is an unsaved spreadsheet, and the name appears right here as well as up here in the top left corner. I can start auto-saving by clicking this link to set up my auto-save options, or I can come up here and click Save. Now you might be expecting the name Spreadsheets 101 to become the name of this spreadsheet when I click the Save button. Not so in this application here. I actually get to type in the name. So I'm going to type in Sheets 101 and click OK. And that becomes the name of my document. You can see when it was saved, the date and the time. And this is going to be owned by me since I'm the creator. So that means if I come up here to save and close, don't worry, we'll be coming back to the spreadsheet application later on, a couple of chapters dedicated to it. I don't see it automatically here until the next auto refresh, or I can refresh myself. I'm going to click reload here in Safari. You can click your refresh button in Internet Explorer if that's what you're using, or any other browser for that matter. And now under all items I see both types of documents. There's Sheets and WP, and they're listed automatically in chronological order. In other words, the newest one at the top. I want to change that order. I can click these columns. If I want to sort them by name, I can do that as well. And let's create one more new document. I'm going to go up to my new button drop down and choose presentation this time. If you've ever used PowerPoint or Corel presentations, this is very familiar. I've got a file button right up here, tabs for editing and revisions, and then I've got a toolbar with some options for creating new slides, duplicating, deleting, little shortcuts. And for the individual slides themselves, you see a toolbar as well for formatting. I'm going to click down here where it says click to add title. Right now this is an untitled presentation. So if I start typing in Presentations 101, check out the name up here. This is very similar to what we saw with word processing. It's going to take the first bit of text and automatically name it what I've typed in. Unless I click here to rename this document, of course I can do it from Google Docs Home as well. So I'm going to come over here to save and close. We'll be returning to this application later on to cover it in detail. I'm going to refresh or reload, and there it is, called Presentations 1. That's the name, and if I want to rename that, give the checkbox a click, click rename right here, highlights the current name so I can type right over it. Slideshows 101 is what I'm going to rename it to. When I hit enter or return, that is the new name. I can deselect the checkbox now to see a list of 3 different types of documents, all located in one convenient location here in my Google Docs home. Now if I want to filter out and just look at my documents, I can go down to items by type and click on documents. There's my spreadsheets. There's my presentations. I also have it for PDFs. We'll be talking about creating PDFs later on in this title as well. Now these are sections that can be collapsed or expanded. By default they're fully expanded. If I don't want to look at items by type, I click the little minus sign. Same thing for saved searches and folders. You can see how it just makes it a little bit simpler here on the left hand side. If I need more room for this pane or less, I can click and drag it. And of course clicking the plus sign will expand those sections, allowing me to see their entire contents. I'm going to go back up here to Owned by Me. These are the 3 that I created. Therefore, they're owned by me. When I start sharing, people will be able to see them on their list, but not under the Owned by Me section, rather Opened by Me. So if someone's decided to share a document with me and I've opened it, clicking Open by Me will display those along with the ones that I've created because I have opened them and worked with them. I'm going back up to All Items. And that's a quick intro into creating new documents. Of course, for each of those applications, we'll go into great detail. There's so many options for creating new documents in each of the 3 applications. We'll get very technical in those chapters later on. If you were following along in an earlier lesson, I mentioned that one of the greatest advantages to Google Docs is that the documents you create here are saved to a central location on a secure server so you can access them from any connected device around the world. Well, what about the files that you've already created on your own computer? Well, you might want to consider uploading them to Google Docs. That way you can access them, like I said, from anywhere around the world, but also you can share them with other people, collaborate on those files, even though you've already created them and they're not yet in Google Docs. So in this lesson, we're going to upload a couple of different files. The second button up here in your Google Docs homepage is the Upload button. So let's give it a click. Now you can upload files that are located on devices like your computer by clicking the Choose File button, or if they're on the web, you can enter the URL here and even rename it simultaneously as you upload the file. Now just before we choose a file to upload, take a look over here on the right hand side at the compatible formats. When it comes to word processing documents, HTML files and plain text files can be uploaded. Microsoft Word documents, the older version, not the latest, at least not at the time of this recording, but Google Docs is constantly being improved and updated, so .docx files will eventually show up here, I'm sure. Rich text format, open document text, and Star Office files can also be uploaded. When it comes to presentations, PowerPoint presentations, PPT files, as well as PPS files, the portable slideshow format. And then we've got spreadsheets. Comma separated value is a very common format. It's a generic format that can be opened by almost any spreadsheet application. But we can also upload XLS files here and open document spreadsheet files as well. So you'll notice we don't have .pptx or XLSX files yet, the latest version from Microsoft, but like I said, we'll probably see them in no time. So let's upload a couple of files. We'll go over here to the Choose File button. And if you've got the exercise files, wherever you stored them on your computer, you can navigate to that folder. If you don't have exercise files, you can look for a Word document, maybe a CSV file, or a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to go to this one here in the exercise files folder called agenda.doc. So with that selected, all I have to do is click Choose. Now you might be wondering, can I select multiple files and upload them at once? No, you can't. If you try and hold down your Control key on a PC or your Command key on a Mac and try to select another file, you can't. It's one at a time, so we'll start with agenda.doc and click Choose. The name now appears here next to the Choose File button. All we have to do is upload it by clicking the Upload File button. This uploads it to Google Docs and it'll open it up in the word processing application. There's my flashing cursor. I'm ready to start working on this file. Now if I don't make any changes to it, I don't need to come up here to save or save and close. I can go directly back to my Docs home by clicking the link up here in the top right corner, and it now appears in my list of files here under All Items. It'll also appear under Documents. When I click on my Documents link over here on the left-hand side, I see my original file that I created in a previous lesson as well as the one I just uploaded. I'm going to go back to All Items. Let's upload another file. This time we'll do that CSV file. Let's see what happens. Click the Upload button, click Choose File. Again, from the exercise files, if you've got them, we'll do the expense report. It's a CSV file, comma separated values. We click Choose. If you don't have the exercise files, maybe find an XLS file, an Excel file, or if you've got a CSV file. It'll appear here next to the Choose File button. When you click Upload File, it's uploaded to Google Docs and opened up in the spreadsheet application. So here's my expense report. I have some formatting to do, but my data is in there at least. So we'll be talking about formatting your spreadsheets when we get to the spreadsheet application chapters later on in this title. Right now I'm going to go back to my Docs home, haven't made any changes to save, and it now appears up here in my list along with the other items here in my Google Docs home. Of course, to go back to those, we just click on them to make changes, but now you know how to upload your files into Google Docs. As you begin to create more documents here in Google Docs or even upload additional documents, they will start to pile up over time. So to help you stay organized, here are some handling techniques. First of all, you may have noticed that I've uploaded a couple more files from the exercise files folder. This KPS presentation as well as this newsletter, which is a Word document. So now I've got not a long list, but I've got additional documents here of different types, and I might need to start thinking about staying organized. Well, over here in the left-hand pane, All Items is selected, meaning I'm going to see everything, whether I own it, whether I created it or uploaded it, or if I'm sharing someone else's document, I'm going to see it here as well. And you can imagine when you start collaborating with others how they can really start to pile up. Well, let's say I only wanted to see the ones that I created or uploaded. Then I'd come down here to Owned by Me. Now typically that will weed out the list. You can see that this list has not changed at all because I have either created or uploaded all of these files. Down below that is Opened by Me. Here I'm going to see any of the documents that I have opened. Now you have to open them up to create them, and when you upload them you know they're automatically open. So this list is the same for me currently, but once I start sharing, for example, if someone invites me to collaborate on one of their documents, I won't see it here under Open by Me until I actually open it and start working on it. Next comes Starred. If I click on Starred, I actually don't see anything. There are no starred items. What does that mean? Let's go back up to All Items here. You may have noticed a little column here for stars, and there are some hollow stars next to each one of the documents listed here. You can use the star feature however you like to separate documents from each other. For example, maybe you've got professional or office documents mixed in with your personal documents. Well, one way of keeping them separate from one another is to create a star next to one or the other. Here's an example. I've got some files that end with 101. These look like learning documents. So I'm going to click on the star next to Sheets 101 as well as WP 101 and Slideshow 101. Now with those selected with their stars glowing brightly, I can come over here and click on Starred to only see those documents. So in this case they're learning documents, but you can use this feature however you like. If you don't want a star next to one of these, you just deselect it by clicking the star. And when I go back up to All Items, you can see the stars disappear. So think about that to help you kind of filter down to a specific list of files that have something in common. Next we have Hidden. Another thing you might want to do is hide certain documents from your main view. So you have to go to a special location to find them. For example, maybe expense information, expense reports, or revenues, or typically spreadsheets, are hidden away somewhere. I'm going to take this expense report and click in its checkbox here. With it selected, I can go up to the top, click on Hide, and it no longer appears here even though All Items is selected. It really should say All Items except Hidden Items. Now if I wanted to undo that, you may have noticed up here, expense report has been hidden. I can undo it by clicking Undo. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to go over here to Hidden now. When I click on that, there's my one file still selected. Now whenever I delete something, it goes into the trash. Let's go back to All Items. And you can see my list is a little bit shorter now. Let's say I wanted to delete one of these. I can click on the checkbox. If I wanted to delete multiple files, I can click as many checkboxes as I want. Once I've got the file selected, I come up here to Delete, which actually removes it from this list. I can undo that, and there it is right up there. But I can also find it in the trash. So I'm going to go over here to Trash. There it is, still selected. And if I want to undelete that, I can click Undelete right here. It'll put it right back. Empty Trash is going to permanently delete this document. So I don't really want to do that. I'm going to undelete it. Takes it out of the trash and puts it back. If I go back up to Hidden now, I can actually unhide that. Clicking Unhide will unhide the selected report. When I go back to All Items, they're all back safe and sound. I can deselect them now unless I wanted to do something else with them, such as rename them, for example. Expense report's kind of bugging me. It's all lowercase, so I'm going to click in the checkbox, go up to Rename. That highlights it. I'm just going to type in expenses like that and hit Enter. There we go. I can deselect when I'm done. Now the other thing that you can do to filter out, we talked about this in a previous lesson, is just come down here where it's listing items by type. If you're not seeing that, you might have to click the plus sign to expand this section. But just to see your word processing documents, your spreadsheets, your presentations, and if you've got any PDFs, you can click on PDFs. It's pretty easy to convert any of these documents to the PDF format. Of course, you can upload PDFs as well. So here's a quick way to filter it down just to those specific types of documents, keeping in mind that although we're viewing the same file in many different areas, maybe it's under Opened by Me, Owned by Me, maybe it's under Documents or Presentations, really the file only exists in one location. You can just view it from very different locations here on our pane. And this will come in handy when we start creating folders as well. When you start sharing your documents or people invite you to share their documents, you will be able to filter down to just them down below, choosing whose documents you want to see, who you're sharing with. We'll see that later on when we start sharing our documents. Right now, I'm going to go back up here to All Items. Now, the only other way that you might think about staying organized, especially when the files really start to pile up, is to put them in their own folders. You can see over here, All Folders is kind of expanded, and down below I've got this one, Items Not in Folders. Despite how it may look, all of these under All Items such as Owned by Me, Opened by Me, Hidden, even the trash, these are not folders. Think of them more like locations. If I want to store files in folders, I need to create a folder and put it in there using the Move To option. Down below, anything that's not in an actual folder, when I click on Items Not in Folders, I see all of those. In this case, it happens to be the same as All Items. So in the next lesson, we're going to talk about creating folders to stay organized and moving your files into those folders. Once your documents really begin to pile up, you'll probably want to consider a folder system to stay organized. And a folder system is very similar to working in a Windows environment with Windows Explorer, where you go through your computer looking at different folders containing different types of files. Same thing on the Mac side using Finder. Well, here in Google Docs, when you start creating folders, you actually don't put copies of your documents into the folders. You tag your documents with the folder name. So when you click on the folder, it appears as though those documents are inside a folder, but really what's happening is you're filtering out all the rest and only showing the documents tagged with that folder name. I'll show you what I mean. First of all, before we can start moving documents into a folder, you have to create those folders. Currently, if I look over here in the left-hand pane under All Folders, there are no folders. Just an item to show me all of the documents that are currently not in folders, which is every one of my documents. So I'm going to go up to the New button, give it a click, and at the bottom is Folder. When I click on that, I've created a new top-level folder, and by default the name is New Folder. But we can click and drag over that to highlight it and type in our own name right over what's there. So I'm going to type in Personal and hit Return. I now have a new folder named Personal. Now if I was to go back up to the New button and choose Folder, I'd be creating a subfolder beneath Personal Folder. That's right, you can have many levels of folders or subfolders within folders. I don't want to do that right now, so it's very important first that I deselect and click on All Folders to create another top-level folder. And I'm going to do that now by going to New and selecting Folder. This time I'm going to backspace over what's there to take it out and type in Office Docs. And when I hit Return, you can see now I've got two top-level folders. Now with Office Docs selected, I am going to create some subfolders. So I go up to New, down to Folder, and this time I'm going to highlight what's there, New Folder, and type in my own name. This one is going to be, let's do Financials. Now you can see there's actually one item in Office Docs, and if I click on it, there's Financials. Even though there are no actual documents in there, it's counted as an item under Office Docs. With Office Docs selected, I'm going to go back up to New and create one more subfolder. And this time I'm going to click and drag over New Folder and type in Learning Docs. So now it's just a matter of actually moving my documents into those folders. That's the philosophy. That's not really what's happening. Remember, we're tagging our documents with these folder names so you don't end up with multiple copies of the same document. It exists once and once only. We're just organizing using these actual folder tags. So I'm going to go up to All Items. And I'm going to go down here to Sheets 101 and click in the checkbox. Same thing for WP and Slideshow 101. These are my learning documents. So when I go up to the Move To drop-down with the little folder icon, I can actually choose where they're going. Now each of these has its own little triangle next to it. Office Docs, if I click on the triangle, will expand this to show that I've got Learning Docs and Financials. Well, this is where I want it to go, Learning Docs. So I click on it, with it selected, choose Move to Folder, and away they go into that folder. Now notice that with all items selected, I can still see them here. Over here though, under Folders and Sharing, it tells me that they are in the folder named Learning Docs, and they're shared only by me at this point. So I'm going to deselect just by clicking below them here on the list. I can also deselect their checkboxes because I'm not going to do anything else with those. Now with newsletter here, I'm going to give it a click. I'm going to move that into my personal folder. Move to, click personal, click move to folder. And this is my own personal newsletter. It's now tagged with the personal folder. So it really hasn't changed its location. It's still on a secure server. It exists there one time only, but I can access these folders by clicking them here or over here in the left-hand pane. Right, I'll deselect that one, and I'm just left with a couple more. I've got this slideshow, expenses, and agenda. They're going to go right into the Office Docs folder. So I'm going to go up to Move To, choose Office Docs, and Move to Folder. Now I've put them here because there's an actual document, which is a spreadsheet called Expenses, that really belongs in the Expenses folder. So can I move it from here into that folder as well? You bet. These documents can exist in multiple folders even though they only exist in reality once. So with Expenses still selected, I can go up to Move To. I'm going to expand Office Docs and click on Financials, then choose Move to Folder. And you'll see that now it's actually located in two folders. In reality, it's tagged with these two different folder names. So that means I'll be able to access it from either of those folders. Let's try it out. If I go over to Personal here and click on it, look at that, just my newsletter. If I go over to Office Docs, I've got a couple of subfolders as well as some files. Looks like this one's also in the Financials folder, and I can click on it to open it up from that folder. I'm going to go back to my Docs home, and over here I'm going to go to Office Docs, and I'm going to expand Financials by clicking its little triangle. Same thing for Learning Docs. Now you can see how I'm nicely organized here. If I click on items not in folders, look at that. I'm well organized. There's nothing that's lying outside of any of those folders. If I go up to all items, and that's how I like to view things, they're all still there, but here you'll see which folders they belong to now. So that's a great way to stay organized. I want you to imagine hundreds and hundreds of documents. Eventually you'll have to think about creating folders, even subfolders, and moving your documents into those folders. Over time, as your documents really begin to accumulate, as you create more documents, upload documents, and as you're invited to share other people's documents, they really start to pile up. Well, maybe over here in the left-hand pane, some of these filtering options or even your folders are not enough to help you locate a specific document quickly. That's where search functionality comes in handy. In this lesson, we're going to talk about searching through documents. And because Google is a search engine, you've got all of that power built into Google Docs. So there's a couple of different ways to search for the contents of a document. There's the quick search, and that's right up here just above your toolbar. You've got a search field and a search docs button. So if I click in here and I want to locate any of the documents that I currently have listed here in Google Docs that contain a certain word, I can just type in the word. I'm going to do this now. If you've been following along and you've uploaded some files, I'm going to type in Kokanee and I'm going to hit enter or click on the search docs button. Either way, it's going to quickly and easily locate any documents containing the word you just typed in. And you can type multiple words, even sentences if you wanted to. I've got one here. It's a presentation called KPS, short for Kokanee Pet Salon. That was fast. Now, what if you wanted to add some additional criteria? In that case, you probably go over here to where it says Show Search Options. Give that a click, and now you can really be specific about what you're looking for. So really, up here where it says Has the Words, that's what we just did. I'm going to type in something different now, Agenda. And if I know what it's named, I can put in part of the name here, or just leave it blank. That's what I'm going to do right now. How about the types? You can look for all types of documents or word processing documents, spreadsheets, presentations, folder names as well, or PDF files even. I'm going to leave it at all types. Search all items. If I click this drop down, it could be just those owned by me, those with stars, anything hidden or in the trash. I'm going to leave it at all items. I can be specific about the folders I want to search in. Maybe just Office Docs. I would select it and come down here and click the select button. But I'm going to search through all items. I don't care what folder they're in. I can narrow down the sharing field as well to those that are not shared or private. shared by me, shared with me, or published to the web. I'm going to leave it at any. If it's shared with, I might want to type in the person's name here or their email address. Same thing for the owner. I'm just looking for the ones I own or owned by someone else. I can put their name in here or their email address. I can even be specific about dates, when it was last modified or last opened by me. I'm going to leave it at modified. Within, I'm going to say the last week. So I'm going to type 1 week of today. And I'm going to type in the word today. I could type in the day of the week, an actual date, and I can type in the dates different ways. You can see the sample down below. All I have to do now is click the Search Docs button. Away it goes. Look at that. There's actually 2 here that contain the word agenda. Agenda appears here in the actual file name as well as in the contents, and it's also part of my Kokanee Pet Salon presentation. So I found those 2 very quickly. Now, as I create additional agendas, additional presentations that contain agendas, I might want to perform this search on a regular basis. In that case, I don't want to have to go through all of this again, so you can actually save a search. I'm going to come over here to where it says Save This Search and give it a click. And give it a name. I'm going to type in Agendas. And when I click OK, it now appears over here in my left-hand pane under Saved Searches. So there we go. When I'm done searching, I can click Cancel. Returns me back to the full screen view. I'm going to go up here to All Items. And if I wanted to locate, as they start to accumulate again, all of those files or documents that contain the word agenda, I could come down here to Save Searches and click on Agendas. Notice also up here I've got a Saved Searches drop down, so I can click that. And right now there's only one called Agendas, so easy access right from there as well. When I click on it, that's what I see, the search results for my criteria. And these search results will change over time. Maybe I'll delete files, maybe I'll create new ones that contain the word agenda. This is always going to be changing, but the search criteria does not. When I'm done with a saved search and I don't want it anymore, I can right-click, and if you're on a Mac, you can control-click to select Delete from here. And when I choose Delete, notice that it's gone. I have no saved searches. That's all there is to that. Search criteria, search functionality. It's very powerful. It comes from Google and it's built in to Google Docs.